What is up, guys? My name is Lex. Welcome back to the vlog. We are here at the Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida. If you remember, about a month ago, I played in Austin, Texas on the Lodge live stream. I played against a guy named DQ.
Mile. Poker and chilies all in, baby. Folds it.
DQ is a wild action player, and he is here in Florida. He wants to play a game, so I'm here early on a Friday morning. 12 o'clock p.m. I'm usually getting out of bed at this time, but we started a game. We're going to be playing 5, 10, 25, mandatory straddle. It's going to be wild. Pots are going to be big. Let's get to the table. Let's get to the action. Let's go. Let's start off the action here. $2,500 buy-in, 25 mandatory straddle. I look down at a premium. My first hand, Queen 6 of clubs in the cutoff. I want to be bringing some action to this game. I make it 75. Small blind and straddler make the call. Queen 4-4 rainbow. My opponent's check to me. I put out a c-bet with my top pair, and they fold, and we are awarded the first pot. We win a couple small pots. We're up about $200 before this hand comes up. There's a limp for $25. I'm in middle position with ace, queen of clubs, a premium hand. I raise it up to $125. The player next to act makes the call for $125, and now the button puts in a 3-bet. She makes it $575. The action is now on my buddy from Texas, DQ, and he does not disappoint. He said he was going to bring some action to the table, and he does. He cold calls $575. Now the action is back on the limper, the guy who called $25, and he calls $575 too. Wow, now we are in a weird spot. What should we do here with ace queen of clubs? The button started the hand with $2,500, and remember, guys, we're playing a 25 straddle under the gun, which means it's only 100 big blinds, and with all this dead money in the middle, with such a premium hand, I don't want to call and go 5 ways to the flop and miss and have to fold, so I decide to go for it all here. I shove all in for $2,700. The button thinks for a little bit of time and folds her hand. Now the action's on DQ, who says, no way, the camera's on, I gotta fold, folds back to the limper, and he eventually makes the fold as well.
I'll fold, but I want to see it.
I had an ace and a queen.
No, it's got pocket. I have ace queen also.
I had an ace and a queen.
How are you? I had ace queen also.
Everybody had ace queen?
Oh my god. You had ace queen? I had ace queen. I had also ace queen.
I had ace queen.
We end up taking over an $1,800 pot down pre-flop without even seeing a flop. Probably the first time that's ever happened to me. Running good so far starting off the session. Just one orbit later, the run good continues when we look down at pocket aces. 1 diamond, 1 club, there's a limp to 25. We raise it up to $100. DQ calls in the straddle and the limper calls. 3 ways to a flop of 10, 8, 6 rainbow. On this low connected board that's going to hit my opponent's range, I decide to check it back for pot control and deception. Go into the turn, which is the queen of hearts. My opponent's check to me again. I'm going to put out a value bet, trying to get called by any queen, any 10, straight draw or flush draw. DQ folds, and the limper ends up making the call. Heads up here to the last card, which is an offsuit 7. The heart flush draw does miss, but now any 8 makes a straight. My opponent checks to me, and on this board, I don't think I can be going for value, so I decide to check back and announce 1 pair. My opponent shows 6-7 offsuit, so we got a little lucky there on the river. We end up losing our first pot here, but it wasn't that big. We're still up about $1,500 on the session. There is a ton of action so far on this table. The chips are flying. There's a limp. I'm in the cutoff position with ace king now. I end up raising it to $100, and a very aggressive player on the button who likes to 3-bet, likes to make big pots. He puts in a 3-bet. He makes it $325. The limper thinks for a little bit of time and decides to call $325. So now I put him mostly on some pocket pairs, maybe some suited aces or suited broadways. So now the action's back on me. Given the fact that I raised in the cutoff and the button 3-bet me, a very aggressive player, he can have a wider range here. He's not always going to have queens, kings, and aces. He can have some suited Broadway cards. He can have some lower pocket pairs and some weaker aces, and even some suited connectors. So I'm not going to call here and go multi-way out of position. I'm going to put in a 4-bet. I put in a re-raise. I make it $1,100. Just for some context here, I started the hand out with $4,500 and the button covers me. Whenever I raised it up to $1,100 here, my plan was to fold to a jam by the button. I don't think he's going to be jamming with anything less than pocket queens, kings, or aces, and my ace-king is not doing very well against that range. However, it doesn't come to that. He thinks for some time and ends up folding. Now the action's back on the limber. I'm expecting him to fold 100% of the time here. However, he came to play some poker. He wants to see a flop. He ends up calling $1,100. $2,500 in the middle, 4-bet pot going heads up here to the flop, looking for an ace or a king, which we do not get. It comes off 3-3-6 rainbow. My opponent eventually checks it over to me, and I think he's going to have a lot of pocket pairs here, some weaker aces or some Broadway cards. So I decided to put out a bet, trying to put pressure on all of his pocket 8s, 9s, or 10s. I bet out $800 with plans to shove all in on basically any turn card. We are praying for a fold here. I've already committed myself. If he makes a call here, I'm going to go all in on any turn card, and I really don't want to punt off my whole $4,500 stack. However, we get lucky. My opponent ends up folding but asks to see my cards, and I don't really have an issue with showing my cards, especially if I'm going to put the hand on the vlog. I want to keep the table fun, friendly, and happy, so I show him I had ace-king, and we end up taking down an over $2,500 pot here. Next up, we look down at the snowman, pocket 8s in middle position. I make it $75 over the straddle. The hijack player calls, heads up, flop is 3-5-6 rainbow. I put out a $100 bet, and my opponent folds. I then go outside to get some intro shots for the vlog and come back and I post in the cutoff. I have king jack offsuit. I raise it up to 100. Now the button, the same player who 3-bet me earlier, he makes it 250. DQ calls and nobody likes a nit, so I make the call as well. Flop is jack 9-9 with 2 clubs. We end up flopping top pair here, king kicker, check it over to the button who puts out a $300 bet. DQ finally looks up at the board, not even sure if he's seen his hand yet or not. Sometimes he likes to play blind, but I'm pretty sure he knows what he has this time. He ends up making the call for 300. I consider just folding right on this flop just because there's going to be a lot of turn cards I'm not going to want to see. Any queen, ace, or club, or 8 is not going to be good for me, but I think it's just too weak to fold just on this flop with top pair, so I make the call for $300 as well. This pot has ballooned pretty quickly here. We're looking for a brick on the turn card. DQ checks in the dark. The 4th card is an ace, probably one of the worst cards in the deck. Now the button's going to have a lot more top pairs than me. He can have some ace-jack, ace-king, ace-queen, and even ace-king. So when it checks to him, he puts out a large bet. He makes it $900. Now the action is back on DQ. He asks how much it is. The dealer counts out the chips. It's a $900 bet, a very big bet for this game. DQ thinks for a little bit of time and ends up calling. Now that there's a bet and a call, there's no way I can call here with my king jack. I end up letting this hand go. They are heads up now to the river, which comes off the 3 of clubs, so the front door flush gets there, and DQ immediately leads out for $1,600. The button now goes into the tank. He thinks forever and ends up folding king 9 of hearts face up for trip 9s. DQ says good fold and shows the 10 of hearts. So it looks like he was bluffing there. He got a massive bluff through. This table is wild. Later on here, I have king 10 of spades, a beautiful hand in the cutoff. I make it $75. The button makes a call, heads up to the flop of king 7-4 rainbow. With 1 spade here on this super unconnected dry board, I decide to check, and the button checks behind. The turn is the deuce of spades, now giving us top pair and the king eye flush draw. I'm going to bet now. I put out a $125 bet, and the button makes the call. Heads up, going to the final card, which is the jack of spades, giving us the second nut flush. I'm going to continue to bet here, hoping my opponent either win runner flush as well. Maybe he's got a jack, a weaker king, or possibly a pocket pair that he can call with. I bet out $250. My opponent doesn't think for too long and calls. I show the king 10 of spades, and he mucks. About 4 hours into the session now, our stack has yo-yoed up and down, but right now we're over about $5,000 in our stack, up about $2,500 on the session. Moving along to the next hand, we have 9-10 offsuit in the straddle. Under the gun +1 raises to 75. Cutoff calls, and I make the call as well. King 10-4 rainbow, we flop second pair. I decide to play and flow and check. Initial raiser checks, and the cutoff checks behind. Turn card is a deuce. I check and it checks all the way around again, and the river card is good for us. It's a 10. We end up making trips. I think for a little bit of time trying to figure out what bet sizing I want to use, and I'm pretty sure going big here is good. I want to polarize my range, look like I'm trying to steal the pot. I make it $250. My opponent pretty quickly calls, later position player folds. I show 9-10 for trips, and he mucks. He later told me he had pocket queens, so we ended up getting pretty lucky there, taking down another pot. We are winning small pots. Meanwhile, DQ is literally taking everyone's money. I'm pretty sure he has about a $15,000 stack right now. Moving on to the last hand of the night. DQ raises the button. The big blind calls. I call in the straddle with 9-3 of clubs. Flop is 9-9-7-2 spades. The big blind leads out for 50. I raise it up right away here with my trips. I make it $200. DQ pretty quickly gets out of there, and the big blind makes the call. When the big blind leads out and then calls my raise, I put him on a flush draw, a straight draw, or possibly a 7. So when the turn card is the king of hearts, shouldn't change anything at all. He checks it over to me. I want to continue to charge his flush draws and straight draws and try to get value from any 7 or maybe pocket 8s. I bet $300. We are definitely looking for some action with this hand. However, if my opponent puts in a check raise, it's going to be a pretty gross spot. We have trip 9s with a 3 kicker, so we're losing to all other 9s my opponent might be playing. Ace 9, Queen 9, Jack 9, 9 10, 8 9, all those hands beat us. So if he puts in a check raise, it's not going to be good. However, he just makes the call. We are looking for a brick river, trying to fade the spade, which we do. It's the 4 of clubs. All the straight draws and flush draws miss. I look back at my hand just to make sure I still got it. Yep, I do. So I'm going to put out a bet. I make it small, $325. My opponent quickly folds, telling me he had a straight draw that he missed. I show the 9-4 trips and end up taking down this pot. The last pot I play here, big game tonight, 5-10-25. We end up racking up our chips, heading to the cage and cashing out for the night. Alright guys, that is it for today's session. In the game for $2,500, never added on, cashed out for $56.85 for a profit of $3,185, starting off the month of September right. Starting off with a huge win at 5-10-25. The table was action. DQ was given a ton of action as well as some other players at the table. And we didn't run great, but we didn't run bad. We won some big pots there with ace-king and ace-queen. I didn't make any sets, 2 pairs, or straights or flushes, but I didn't get coolered. I didn't lose any big hands. I didn't do any crazy, massive punt bluffs and get called. I'm definitely happy with how this session went. I will take the win, that is for sure. If you guys like this video, hit that like and subscribe button. I come out with videos just like this every single week. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Until next time, I'll see ya.